Welcome to Community Crypto on CoinDesk TV, where we are building a global community with local crypto groups. I'm your host, Isaiah Jackson, and every week we'll explore how crypto is creating and impacting various communities around the world. This week, we visit Hawaii and discuss local regulations with this newly formed meetup group. I'm joined now by two amazing guests, Sean Covert, who is the founder of the Hawaii Meetup Group, and Panfilo Delacruz, a member of the Hawaii Meetup Group. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey there, Isaiah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Glad to have you all. And I want to start with you, Sean. You are a native of New York, and I just want to hear a little bit about your background, learning about Bitcoin, and how it's been with the New York regulations, circumventing those.
Sure. So I first found out about Bitcoin in about 2017, living in New York, and I bought it as it was going up, and then the price started going down. But unlike some of those people in 2017, I found myself quickly fascinated by Bitcoin, by the larger what is money question, and fell down the rabbit hole. So since then, I've spent a lot of time learning more about those topics, learning more about Bitcoin and the history of money, and pursuing those interests further. With New York, alongside Hawaii, is a pretty highly regulated crypto state where you'll often find that some of these exchanges and companies operate in either 49 states out of 50, except New York, or 48 states, and it's not New York and Hawaii. So it really does present some challenges if you want more exposure to some of the crypto space than the rest of the United States gets.
Absolutely. And Pan, I'd be interested to hear what was your introduction to Bitcoin, or how did you get into the space?
Well, when I started first making a paycheck, I was really interested in just being financially smart. I made a lot of bad decisions before that kind of led me down the path of investing in silver and gold. And luckily in 2017, the people I was following, the podcasts I was listening to, was going into Bitcoin. I figured around 2017 it was only $800, so I took a risk, and after dipping into that, I've been addicted to it ever since. It's offered me a lot more financial freedom than I ever thought it would. And then going from state to state, trying to incorporate as many friends and family members as I can into the space, because it is a once in a generation opportunity.
Oh, yeah. And I love to hear those old prices, $800 for Bitcoin, and where we are now for 2017. Always good to hear those prices, but good to hear. All right. So we started in New York with you, Sean. We moved to Hawaii. Pan, you're getting involved in 2017. Sean, you as well. So let's talk a little bit about the regulation in Hawaii being compared to New York, and how stringent has it been? Has that stopped you all from being able to establish yourselves in Hawaii? Sean?
Well, it is really problematic in a sense that some of even the most popular exchanges like Coinbase don't operate in Hawaii right now. And that does present a lot of challenges, especially for new people who don't really know what to look for, don't know companies they can trust. They have to go to some of these other exchanges that maybe more experienced people like Pan and I are familiar with, like maybe they're using Kraken or River for Bitcoin, although those two River recently started operating in Hawaii. But it does present some challenges. Now, I am interested in the larger crypto sphere, but I am mostly a Bitcoin kind of person, and there are good opportunities to get Bitcoin in Hawaii. But when you start expanding into that greater crypto sphere, there is much less access than a lot of other states.
Absolutely. And of course, with that access, it may be a little tough for people. Have you seen that as well, Pan, getting into the space and learning how you can get into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
So I've been in Hawaii for about 2.5 years now, and I've seen that it is actually getting easier. Like, you can go to your local grocery store, you can see a Bitcoin ATM. The regulations for some of the big companies, especially the big exchanges like Gemini, have, like, when I moved here, Hawaii was not allowed, but since then it's been added to that list of 50 states that allow exchanges with Bitcoin now.
So it is getting better. That is great to hear. We always love to hear that from the regulation standpoint. And, we have this bill, the Hawaii bill from the state legislature, trying to get pushed through now to make it more open, sort of a digital sandbox for companies. Do you think that will help with adoption? And do you see companies coming to Hawaii to pursue their Bitcoin and crypto type of sector? Do you see that coming, Sean?
Well, one thing I think for sure is that continued adoption of Bitcoin and crypto at large is going to happen, regardless of what states do and what laws they put into place. So I think the adoption is going to continue to grow no matter what, because we're talking about advancements in money and decentralization, and people will naturally continue to gravitate towards that. But once you get past that, there really is almost sort of a level of competition between states where you're going to have friendly states and unfriendly states towards Bitcoin and to crypto. And the states that are unfriendly are, I can imagine possibly going to face some negative side effects if they are, negative into the future for this kind of stuff. So I'm happy to see some sort of openness coming towards Hawaii, but I do think that more needs to be done if they want to be a leader in this sector instead of a follower.
Right. Adapt or get left behind. And Pam, yeah, go ahead, brother.
And there is a really big appetite. We don't you can't see a lot of public presence with interest in the Bitcoin space, but here and there I will hear conversation throughout downtown, throughout the North Shore. Everybody's getting into crypto, especially since the COVID pandemic has left pretty much half of the state in trouble, not making income because of tourism being shut down. A lot of people are looking for other revenue, and the appetite is definitely there.
Oh yeah,
and in our meetup group. In the meetup group, which is new, we only started in December. Some of the new people that have been showing in recent meetings, you can really kind of see this interested appetite, but that they're still at that very early stage where, it's hard to even define what Bitcoin is, let alone crypto at large. So you can see the interest building, but it is still often at the early stages of understanding, at least.
Oh yeah, and that's what I wanted to discuss next was the meetup group. The people that are coming, are they mostly novices? Are they beginners? Where they started? And you answered that there. But from that point, do you think people will continue to adopt Bitcoin, or do they think it's a fad? What are you seeing with your specific Hawaii meetup group?
Well, the people that are showing up to the meetup group, it's probably a mix between people who are very interested and people who are completely new to the space. And the groups we've had have been pretty good so far, because I'll prepare a list of discussion topics that we'll talk about, and some of the experienced people will start, we'll discuss those things, and then some of the newer people will ask questions as they see fit, and we want them to feel comfortable and to learn. So I actually lost train of exactly what your question was there.
Well, with the amount of people that are coming in, maybe being novices, continuing on, it looks like this isn't stopping. And I definitely think that there's so much in the crypto space. And Pam, maybe you can speak to this. What are some of the things in the crypto space that are exciting you now? Maybe NFTs, maybe DeFi. What are some of the things that excite you for the Hawaiian community?
Especially for the Hawaiian community, one of the big things is earning yield. Looking at decentralized and centralized finance applications, and it's kind of replacing the savings bank people have had. I mean, you look at here in Hawaii, we have 3 or 4 national banks. We don't let a lot of mainstream banks in, but the returns on their investment, especially in the savings accounts, it is minuscule. It's less, a fraction of a half of a percent. But for these people, they can start earning and gaining interest on them. That is the newest development in this space, and I feel like a lot of people are going to flock to that when they see what's going on in their bank accounts.
I agree there. And Sean, did you want to speak to that as well? Do you think what type of innovations do you see are very exciting?
Well, I am kind of interested by this decentralized finance stuff. I don't know for sure that some of these popular DeFi apps that we do see built on Ethereum will necessarily, be here in a decade from now. They might be, but at the very least, the concept, there's no going backwards. So we are going to still see some of these kind of things like self-driving banks, where we're going to have a finance system built on decentralized technology that really does have the potential to to change how we do things in finance right now. And for some of the new people who are, in the meetup group or just learning about this whatsoever, whether it's starting with Bitcoin or a little bit into this crypto space, one thing that I think is important is that, you don't have to go all in right at the start. You just should get off of zero. You shouldn't have nothing, put a little bit in what you're comfortable with, and then you start to learn. And for almost everyone, as you start to learn more, you become more interested and want to learn even more about it.
Right. I'm with you there. And the DeFi space is fascinating. I mean, the fact that you can basically take your money, get a stable coin, earn yield off of it, or you can buy Bitcoin, earn yield off of it. And you can also collateralize it into a loan. I mean, people of Hawaii, you got to understand this is the future. So you definitely don't want to be left behind. And I'm glad for the work that you two are doing. So last question for you both. I want to pose this question. I pose to everybody. It's the year 2040. All right. Think about the year 2040, about 20 years from now. Pan, where do you see the Bitcoin and crypto world, and how will Hawaii adapt?
I think it will be the mainstream, probably one of the global reserve currencies of the world, where everybody's going to interchange it. I mean, you're seeing it now. Man, I can't even imagine up to 2040, but you're seeing now, Elon Musk just came out that you can buy a Tesla for a Bitcoin, and he's going to retain that Bitcoin in his treasuries. You're going to see more adoption. I think more companies like PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, it's pretty much going to be everywhere. And especially with this centralized finance and decentralized finance, this is pretty much going to be the new way of banking. Like, I see all the other companies that, like Wells Fargo or Chase or JP Morgan, if they don't adapt their banking system to this new way of taking care of investors and depositors, and they're going to go out of business. I feel like, luckily for us, like, we're still pretty early. We are getting a huge advantage, and I feel like we're talking about generational wealth right now. And for me, it'll be a nice, easy retirement with passive income. But hopefully a lot of people get the message, and institutions, like, as well as just regular retail investors, get that foot in the door.
Oh, yeah. So 2040, you see it's going to happen anyway. Might as well adopt it, right? Yeah. So hopefully that regulation in Hawaii can ease up. And, of course, it's getting better so that by 2040, things can go great. And, Sean, the year's 2040, where do you see Bitcoin? Where do you see Hawaii's involvement?
Right. So one thing that I think a lot of newer people don't really get, because they see the sticker shock price of one Bitcoin, is that if one Bitcoin equals about $500,000, that means that it will have the market cap of about gold. And while that sounds really big and scary, gold is a relatively fringe asset where you probably can't name many of your friends that own gold. That level, the gold 500,000, isn't really that high of a bar to clear if we're talking about this kind of gold 2.0, a better version of gold. So I think that sort of gold level is kind of the floor for Bitcoin, and exactly how far above it goes remains to be seen, but that's still a ways up from here. And for Hawaii, one thing that I have an eye on is Hawaii uses a lot of oil for its energy consumption. It's one of the most oil-using states in the nation. And while there is a good amount of solar, the oil is needed because there's no natural gas. It's expensive to import natural gas. And with solar power and, we generate a lot of solar for the panels that we do have, but storage is a problem and reliability is a problem, just in the sense that just in case there is some sort of surge, there's no backup option. So since the solar panels produce so much electricity, I think that there might be an opportunity for the state to, because if the solar panels produce all this energy, it's difficult to store all of it for a long period of time. There might be an opportunity with Bitcoin mining where you can use solar to produce a ton of energy, way more than the grid needs. And you can kind of selectively turn off the Bitcoin miners if the power is needed diverted to the community. But for those times when the solar is working fine, you can be using that to raise revenue for the state in a state that desperately needs more revenue. And, I don't know that the mechanics of what I just said are really there, but I think there might be some sort of interesting opportunity where Bitcoin mining through solar could reduce the need for oil to be such a dominant energy source for the state.
Wow. So big plans for 2040, because like you said, energy consumption, you can't predict it, but it is very important. And I think that if you can turn that into Bitcoin mining, Hawaii can definitely take off like a Miami or like a Wyoming as far as regulation goes. Because more money, regulations ease up a bit. But again, I'm glad you two were able to join me today to discuss the Hawaii Meetup Group. Thank you both for coming. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Pan. I appreciate you both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Isaiah. This was fun.
Next up, we continue the discussion about regulation in Hawaii with the Democratic representative for the State House looking to change those laws. Stay tuned.
So financial news right now, and I would go back and take a step to the internet, where now we can see that people can self-publish, they can read do-it-yourself videos and learn about stock trading, sure. We're being inundated with information, and so we can choose how we want to consume news. Live, on demand, we can have it in 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. We're also being inundated, however, by a lot of misinformation out there. So it's ever the more important to have credible news sources. That's what CoinDesk seeks to do.
Welcome to Community Crypto on CoinDesk TV. This week, we're focused on the Hawaiian community. And to be clear, Bitcoin is not, absolutely not banned in Hawaii. However, 5 years ago, the Aloha state put into place a few regulations that have made it extremely difficult for crypto exchanges and other firms to do business there. My next guest wants to change that. Patrick Branco is the Hawaii state representative in Hawaii's 50th district. He and 9 other House Democrats in the Hawaii legislature have sponsored a bill asking the state's marketplace regulator to end these restrictive laws. Welcome to the show, Representative Branco.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you, sir. So tell me a little bit about this bill that you have in place with 9 other House Democrats, specifically speaking about digital currency and blockchain technology.
Sure. The bill is a resolution that's requesting from the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs to actually lower the reserve ratio. So right now, and under our current state regulation, it's a 1-to-1. So it's 100% a reserve requirement, which is impossible for companies to basically function and allow our consumers to invest in crypto. And so this resolution is just asking them to do that. The reason why I introduced this bill is because I always feel that we are the 50th state, we are the last state, and in a lot of times that we're the last at adopting certain things that the rest of the country is moving forward with. And so for me, I just thought this was a way that we can try to get Hawaii move forward, especially for us that has such a small economy. We can help our residents.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you're pushing this bill forward. And how has it been? Has there been any pushback from other representatives, or has it basically been people agreeing with your stance that you don't want to be left behind or last?
People have been agreeing with my stance, especially now because with the financial crisis, our economy is propped up on tourism, and we don't have a lot of tourists right now because of COVID-19. And so we're looking at different ways. Surprisingly, though, there has been some pushback from actually some of the other reps who are around my age, which was a little shocking. But to speak with them, share with them a bit more, they were able to come around. But our regulators are pretty cautious about this, and I'm hoping that we can move forward on this.
Oh yeah, and it's always, one of those things that if people don't have the information, they are always a little cautious. But when you do present the idea, you put it out into the universe. Hopefully, they can learn about it and then proceed forward. But I'm interested to learn a little bit about you, Representative Branco. You were a U.S. diplomat in countries like Pakistan, Colombia, and Venezuela. So being a U.S. diplomat, did any of those places, any of those experiences shape your view of how you proceed now?
Definitely. Being in those countries actually gave me a world perspective. And it made me think that, for Hawaii, we're a smaller state, we're a smaller economy, but we have a lot of competitive advantages. And so we need to harness those and make sure that we're doing everything we can to expand our economy. And how it relates actually to crypto, the reason why I got interested in it is I got added to a WhatsApp group called Diplo Crypto of diplomats who are investing throughout the world in cryptocurrencies. Wow. And then I realized I couldn't invest in crypto, or I had a barrier to entry. So that's where the idea came from.
Oh man, I love it. And that's what crypto is about, right? Getting rid of those barriers to entry. And I'm glad that those experiences helped shape your view. And I just wanted to ask you a little bit about your history. How did you hear about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency? Were you told about it, or was that your first instance as a diplomat?
I heard about it. Other people were just kind of talking about it, and I was like kind of curious. So maybe about 2 years ago, I bought some Bitcoin, and then I sold it because I got like kind of scared about it. And then I wish I didn't do that because it would be worth it. But it was my first, my first taste of it. And I'm hoping the rest of our Hawaiian consumers have the same opportunity. In the recent hearing we just had in the consumer protection, one of our residents actually shared that if he had the ability to invest his stimulus check of $1,200 into Cardano, it could have been $40,000 today. And so people are hungry, people are looking, people want to be involved. And for me personally, I think as an individual, as a consumer, I should have the right to invest my money where I want to invest it.
I'm with you there. No, no pushback from me. And I do want to ask, you are trying to find a new way forward, but like the man said, hey, I could have put my stimulus check and got 40,000. Do you think that past regulation is stifling future innovation in Hawaii?
I think in the Hawaii market it is. Right now we do have a pilot program, and only 11 smaller, trading houses are able to get involved. And so how I kind of look at it, right, it's like as if you have a TV, but you can only watch 11 channels, or if you have access to the internet, you only can visit 11 websites. And, the big trading houses like Coinbase or even like Robinhood, we can't participate with them. A lot of investors, everyday investors, use those trading houses. And so the reserve requirement just stops them from entering the Hawaiian market.
Yeah, and it's sad to see, but I also want to ask, what steps are you taking to sort of change that narrative so that people don't think, hey, Hawaii is a bad place? What are some of the things outside of the bill that you're doing to change that narrative?
So I've reached out to actually Robinhood. I've reached out to some of the other trading houses and say, hey, I'm working on this, and I'll be the first one to say, I'm not an expert on this, but this is a market that we need to capture here in Hawaii. Please help me get smart so I can help make other people get smart.
I love it. Yeah, and that's how you have to do it, right? You got to hit the ground. You got to talk to people. And I wanted to go off of that point and also say, back in 2017, I remember hearing about a representative, Chris Lee Nakashima, introducing the Blockchain Technology and Digital Currency Working Group. Is that working group still allowed today in the legislature? Were they a part of this bill, or has it been discontinued since then?
That I'm not too sure about. All I know right now, we have that pilot program that just allows those 11 companies. But as far as 2017, I'm not too sure.
Gotcha. And with that pilot that's coming out, I believe it's called the Digital Currency Innovation Lab. Am I correct there?
Yeah, and it's to
Yes.
me it's a kind of a misnomer that innovation is in their name because it's kind of stifling innovation. So
Yeah, well, yeah, we're definitely working to try and change that. And for future generations, what do you think can be done to make sure that that innovation is not stifled going forward?
for me, I think it's easy, right? Why do we have to reinvent the wheel? So many
Mhm.
states have adopted great laws and are allowing their residents to invest in crypto. So it's easy for us in Hawaii to just look at other successes across the continent and see what we can do here instead of closing the market, having, taking time, over a 2 year span to
Mhm.
then is closing the market, right? 2 years
Mhm.
when all the other states, all other places are moving ahead of us. So we have to move forward. And that was the point that I made to actually the head of the commissioner of financial institutions. It's like we are behind, and this program is actually making us more behind.
Oh yeah, and I understand that, and you want to push us forward. And in the crypto world, huge world, right? So many things going on. What types of innovations are you seeing that interest you? Maybe DeFi, maybe NFTs, maybe a new cryptocurrency. What types of things have caught your attention lately?
Um, for me, what's interesting is how you can take your crypto or whatever you have and actually can loan it out and then get some interest on that. And so that's another
Hmm.
place wanted to look into as well. As for me, it's important for our residents to be able to invest their money where they want and make sure they're in a fair, semi-regulated market, but then they're able to make some return on their investments.
Oh yeah, and I believe is it BlockFi that has registered in Hawaii that allows that service where you can use Bitcoin as collateral and get a loan back. Great service, and for most people, the ability to do that is something that they can look forward to. And I wanted to ask, do you have any friends or siblings that happen to own Bitcoin, or are you sort of the lone wolf like some of us in our family?
I'm the lone wolf in us. The actually Going back to your point, I wanted to say is actually we could make a market here, right? We have
Hmm.
a large tourism market, and I think there's actually opportunity in a crypto tourism market if we would allow actually tourists to be able to purchase goods and services in cryptocurrency. Probably one of the first places, but that's another thought that has come through my mind.
Ah, you read my mind because I was just about to ask you, with tourism being your biggest driver for our economy, are you looking to do sort of like Miami, becoming a Bitcoin city, and Wyoming sort of becoming the blockchain state? Do you think crypto tourism could be the next big wave and Hawaii could lead it?
I would love to see that, and I would love Hawaii to lead that.
Oh man, I would too. Who wouldn't want to go to Hawaii, use crypto to get
Exactly,
there?
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hmm. Because you got to think about it when you go somewhere and you obviously are there for tourism. The ability to pay in crypto allows anybody to come, right? And then when you come from another country, you don't have to exchange your money. You can just use crypto, right? So I think that's a great use case for Hawaii. Definitely, I'm glad you're bringing up that those ideas, Representative. And one last question for you. We're thinking a little bit in the future here. Let's say it's the year 2040, right? So where do you think the crypto industry will be, and how it affect the Hawaiian community?
It's a good question. Um, I think crypto is going to be another form of currency for us. And I think everyone's going to have a crypto wallet on their phone and be able to purchase in and out. I don't think the dollar is going anywhere. The dollar is always strong. But I do think we're
Mhm.
going to see more and more people having a crypto wallet on their phone and being able to buy. And also, with Hawaii being the state that's the closest to Asia, I think we're going to see a huge market here, especially for our tourism, our investors coming here and doing a lot of their transactions all in crypto.
Oh yeah, looking forward to it, brother. And I did want to ask, as far as the bill that we talked about earlier, when do you think there will be a vote on the bill to try and get it passed?
So it's going to the finance hearing next. It hasn't been scheduled. We're still going through the process, but I'm pretty hopeful. I believe it will get scheduled, and I sit on the finance committee, and so I can go ahead and ask questions and make sure that I'm moving this bill forward. Surprisingly, this is the only bill currently right now alive in the state legislature about cryptocurrency, and to me, that's shocking that it's 2021.
Yeah, definitely shocking. And is there any bipartisan support, or is it only Democrats?
It's only Democrats, but I spoke to some of my Republican colleagues, and they're interested. I think people just got to know more, but this is definitely a bipartisan issue. It isn't a matter about Republican or Democrat. It's about making sure that our economy is advanced and our residents have the best options to invest their money.
Oh, yeah. Invest in Plan B, right? Definitely. Glad to have you on. And I thank you for coming on to the show, Representative Branco. Thank you for that insight. Definitely looking forward to seeing how Hawaii moves forward. Great state.
Awesome. Right now.
And that's it for this episode of Community Crypto. Every week, we are building a global community with local crypto groups. So be sure to tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on CoinDesk TV. See you then.